this entire city down. Not on our watch. Because what they will try to do, they will try to separate us. They will kick the trans people off the bus. They're kicking the indigenous people off the bus. They're kicking our intersex community off the bus. Our two-sphere plus family, they're kicking them off the bus. They just want a membership LGBT bus. Well, guess what, babe? That LGBT bus, it's not gonna have any gas. It won't have any tires. Y'all not going any far. Because we are a community that is made and has been woven with the fire and the spirit of revolution. Revolution! Revolution!
All over this country. It cannot happen in New York. Here is where we have to take a stand. We love New York. New York is better than this. NYU should be better than this. Shame, and thank you all for being here. We must return again and again until this crime is reversed.
Abruptly announced an inquiry into gender-affirming healthcare for young Australians, including the use of puberty blockers. The announcement came only a matter of days after the Queensland Government paused access to puberty blockers for new patients under the age of 18. Now, this was in response to bombshell revelations that the Cairns Sexual Health Service, apologies there, I said earlier that the Cairns Hospital, had allegedly provided puberty blockers to children as young as 12 without parental authorisation. Joining me now to discuss what we can expect from this inquiry, Senior Child and Adolescent Psychiatrist, Dr. Gillian Spencer. Dr. Spencer, thank you for your time. At the top of the show, I've given my take on this. I think it is a stalling tactic, this NHMRC review. I think it's quite possibly an attempt to bury the issue outside of the campaign. I'm concerned about who might be on the review. I'm also concerned that as almost immediately as it was announced on Friday, came calls from activists to shelve the Queensland review. As I said, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Yeah, well, the NHMRC will develop guidelines for the management of children with gender distress, and hopefully they will follow their own standards for guidelines, which is to have transparency, to manage any conflicts of interest, and most importantly, to link any recommendations to an assessment of the quality of the evidence underpinning the recommendation. But one of the things we've seen with gender medicine is a complete failure of institutions to maintain their integrity. I think Mark Butler's announcement is grossly inadequate. We need an ambulance on this issue, and Mark Butler has essentially told us to go wait at the bus stop on a Sunday, and it shows that he's not concerned, in fact quite the opposite. And then he had his assistant minister announce that transgender activists from OzPath and from an organisation called Transcend are going to be the ones essentially driving this very slow bus. And I cannot see a reason for this massive 18-month time frame just to receive an interim report on puberty blockers, when for the last 5 years internationally, we've had reputable, well-conducted systematic review after reputable, well-conducted systematic review telling us that there's a lack of evidence of benefit for puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. So Mark Butler should be taking action right now to protect Australian children from harm, but he doesn't seem to want to.
So just so I'm clear, the current guidelines that sit in and around the NHMRC, it would appear, and you've just backed up my assessments, I suppose, it would appear it's about tweaking the status quo, tweaking those current guidelines, not a wholesale review, not going back to first principles and saying, should we be using these drugs on Australian children? What sort of drugs are we using? What's the experience overseas? Not going back and saying, should we do it in the first place? Just accepting that we should and writing guidelines about how we do it. Is that fair?
I'm not sure, Peter. I think if the National Health and Medical Research Council follow their own standards, as I said, for guidelines, then they should do a proper job. But once again, it's just a question of whether we can get the integrity on that, or whether transgender activists will be quite heavily involved.